528 hertz frequency has been determined to be nearly the precise center of the entire electromagnetic color spectrum. In other words, it's the center of the rainbow. At the center of the rainbow is the color green. Now you know why there's so much in the botanical world of life, so much green. Because everybody's vibing to the center of the blessing, except humanity. All of nature is vibing. The birds and the bees are singing. The hills are alive with the sound of music, literally vibing to the 528 love. And this is the first evidence also that we have, because your heart chakra energy vortex center is green, meaning that the center of your heart, now we have definitive evidence, is connected to the center of the universe. How magnificent is that revelation? So this concept also is additionally supported. There's only one number in the entire numbering system whereby the electromagnetic color spectrum is the same as the sound system. That one number is 528. Both the same in color and sound. 528 hertz frequency. So let's resonate this and just join me. Ask for a blessing, opening of the heart. What do you think? You like that? Is that a good sound? That's a C. That's your middle. That's your real middle C. 417 is your real A. Your real A. The sad reality is that where we now play our music is in A440. Where did that come from? It used to be 417. A440 came in with the Roman Catholic Church. They suppressed the frequencies. They lost somehow the 152 of the best Gregorian chants, including the hymn to St. John the Baptist, which we've now recovered. That particular hymn was what triggered Dr. Palaio's investigation, looking for those frequencies of vibration by which the music was played. It was known as the most uplifting hymn of all the ages, the most spiritually uplifting hymn. Hymn to St. John the Baptist. It was played to 6 tones. These are those 6 tones. These are those 6 frequencies. And so the A440 is what now is the standard tuning. That if you do the analysis, you know how I just showed you that the English language is 180 degrees flipped. I mean, you couldn't get farther away before coming back in a perfect circle, back to closer to the original, right? 180 degrees, that's as far as it can get. They did the same thing with the music. If you go A439, you're closer to one of the Creator's tones. If you go A441, you're closer to one of the Creator's original tones. That's how precisely it has been manipulated. To do what? To shut down the 95% of your brain, particularly the right brain that operates the heart-mind to the divine human communion. Here is another metaphor so that you begin to understand what we're talking about. When you go driving your car and your channel on the radio is tuned to a station and you're grooving to the music, you love that music. As you get farther and farther away from the broadcasting tower, that music gets staticky. You start to lose the signal from the clear channel, broadcast, and it gets staticky. When it gets staticky, you get a little annoyed. But you want to listen to it. You really have a heart for that music, so you continue to listen to it for another 10, 15 miles, and suddenly it becomes so annoying that you just get disgusted. You go, ah, and you shut it off. And if you continue to listen to it, you'd get sick. That's what we're talking about here. Except you don't even know that you've been listening to the static your whole life. You don't even know what the true resonant frequency is because it has been kept from you. So in other words, the master composer, master conductor of the Universal Orchestra is singing love songs in 5/8, uplifting everything simultaneously. And we're the only species out of tune and accepting static for the clear channel. We're going to talk a little bit about Dr. Masaru Emoto. You know Dr. Emoto? Beautiful crystallography. I'll show you some of those crystals today. But on stage, he goes up on stage and he has a triangular triangle, you know, a musical triangle that he hits, like in an orchestra. And he's hitting it over here. He hits it, bing, and about 30 yards or 30 feet away is his interpreter standing here with the same exact, a replica of that same size triangle. Frequency tuned to the same frequency. And he tells his interpreter to put a microphone next to it. And suddenly this one starts to resonate. He hits that one over there. This one starts resonating. How much of your body is full of water?
Most of it.
Most of your body is water. They used to say when I was at Harvard School of Public Health, the truth was back then about 86%, 86% of your body, well hydrated, was water. Today they tell us it's only 75%. Hogwash, they've been dehydrating everybody with the poisons. Stealing what? Triune God, part of the triune God. Understand that what we had when we came up with the Bible Code Revelations of music was for real. Was because I was asked to donate our facility in Hawaii. When we first moved, we have a mission and ministry in Hawaii. I'll tell you a little bit more about later. But when we first arrived there on the big island of Hawaii, I had been contacted by a fellow who said, listen, we have a physics meeting that we'd like to have happen. We'd like to invite a dozen mathematicians and physicists to discuss spiritual dynamics of physics. I said, oh, how wonderful. I said, fine, I'd be happy to host it. Yeah, sure, please, schedule it. So we scheduled it, and I'm sitting there in our little meeting room, and Marco Rodin, this mathematical genius, is up on the board, and he starts to put his next level of numbers into the matrix. And I'm looking, I'm going, oh my goodness, 396, 417, 528, 639. So I'm watching him put the musical notes in. He had never read my work. I'd never read his. So how's that for a divine synchronicity and revelation? From the matrix, beginning with the simplest mathematics and the patterns in the math, Rodin constructed the structure of the universe. You're looking at his structure. His proposed structure of the universe, he said, is a toroid, a donut shape. Now in the audience at this event, we had a brilliant physicist whose name is Nassim Haramein. And Nassim said regarding Einstein's materials, something's missing in Einstein's field equations. And he looked at it carefully, and he says, you know what's missing in Einstein's field equations is torque, spin, and velocity. So let me go into studying this, and he did, and he published a thesis in a peer-reviewed scientific literature in the physics field that takes Einstein's field equations, adds torque, spin, and velocity to come out with this structure of the universe. And he says to Rodin, he says, you know, you're close, but no cigar. You've simply forgotten the polarity. The toroid structure is accurate, but it's actually a double toroid that you're looking at. And so this is the structure of the way that the universe operates, which does fabulous for us, our understanding of some of the most wonderful pieces of information to allow us to live a faithful life. A life according to the law, according to the matrix. Here is the simple way to analyze this. You've heard of what goes around comes around. You've heard of, as you sow, so shall you reap. So this explains it. Let's say that you're here, and you are putting out negative thoughts, negative behaviors, negative actions. It's all energy. The neurology in your brain's powerful. 86% of you is God water. So now that's going out, and it goes out, and here's what happens. It goes out, it goes up and down. This is called the event horizon. And you shoot down through the middle of the event horizon, which is the black hole, comes out and spins back around, ultimately comes right back, bringing to you karma, bringing to you divine judgment. It's all according to the mathematical matrix. It's certain, it doesn't lie, it's always consistent. There's nothing missing, nothing broken in it. Now, according to Harameen, approximately where we will be at 2012, right about December 21st, 2012, is right about the top of the event horizon. And I don't have enough understanding in physics to be able to analyze this, but he tells us that the likelihood is that we're going to drop over like a waterfall and shoot down through the center of the black hole of the universe and come out. We won't disappear. We shift polarity. We shift reality. And what's good, which has been suppressed, will flourish. The meek shall inherit the earth, the goodly, godly, loving, sensitive people whose hearts have been prepared electromagnetically, spiritually, lovingly for the opening. And those who have blocked hearts. You know, water is related to this in every way. The concept of human beings' behavior and our culture reflecting the truth about water. There's 3 different states of water that we're aware of, right? Solid, liquid, and ice reflects the types of human beings that we're really looking at. Ice cold people you know. Frozen solid in their positions. Like they need really solidly good enemies to free them. You know, that's the type of people whose hearts are so close, frozen solid like that. Can you imagine what's going to happen to those people as you heat up the water a little bit? You know, it goes from ice to liquid. It starts to flow around obstacles better, right? And then you heat it up some more. And it goes into the spiritual etheric realm. So many of us are already operating in the spiritual etheric realm. We've opened up our hearts. We've warmed our hearts up for that. For those poor people who have not prepared, that they're ice-cold, crystal, frozen, solid, fixed in their positions, in their belief systems, in their indoctrinations, it's over. They won't make it. So that's the opportunity. That's the real reality of the revelation of Nassim Harameen's presentations. Fabulous work. And let's look at the work of another genius in physics named Hartmut Müller. Müller is Russia's top space-time physicist. He, after years of study, created this, what he calls the standing gravitational wave of the universe. That there's one master gravitational wave out of which this entire double toroidal matrix, harmonics, and mathematics of physical, sacred, geometrical manifestation in the physical reality occurs. That single wave he calls the standing gravitational wave of the universe. And he further digests it as having subwave patterns, what he calls the N6. He says that N6 represents 6 nodes in which all of physical reality are precipitating, crystallizing, manifesting. N6. So here's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 peaks and troughs. You can see obviously how intuitively one would apply the 6 notes to those just to see what you got when you do. He also says something very interesting. He says that the structure of this, the basic structure of this, simulates the double helix DNA. Now, do you see something unique popping out at you right here?
Wings.
The double wing structure. You're about to see that the double wing structure of your DNA is structurally created into that simplest infinity pattern that Rodin showed us in the map. This is the key to the house of David. Read Isaiah, read Revelation. Who brings that key at these end times? The 6th angel from the Messianic community of Philadelphia. I'm a Messianic Jew. That's bizarre enough. But I was born in Philadelphia. And my wife will tell you, Jackie, if you ask her who wrote the book Healing Codes for the Biological Apocalypse, it wasn't me. I sat there at a computer for 6 months, and I had angels direct the whole thing. 6th angel from the Messianic community of Philadelphia, who opens doors that no man can close, and closes doors that no man can open. What are the doors? 369, spiritual domain. The music, the key to the house of David. What did David do? What did my beloved ancestor do? What did he do? He had a heart. He had a King David's heart. We've just ordered it. From the top chauffeur developer in the world. I'm working with him to recover the David harps. He played those harps and people miraculously healed. How come? Would you expect anything less from God's music than miraculous healing? I've witnessed 2 healings, massive healings, by people in Scott Huckabee's performances. When King David went into battle, what did he do? He sang. He sang. In what frequencies? Guess which ones? Where did he hit Goliath? Right in the pineal gland, the spiritual gyroscope whacked him good. Whack! And that's what we're about to do too. When we start to play this music, Goliath is going to get whacked spiritually big time. Let me share this with you. The entire universe is spinning, just like your DNA, your genetics. And it's spinning as the mathematics is dictating. The numbers themselves are a tip-off. Let me give you the fundamental, the rudimentary origin of the numbers. Here it is. The most important numbers, 3, 6s, and 9s. Again, Tesla, who created a Tesla coil. Tesla coils, energy amplifiers. Your DNA is an energy amplifier, a coil, operating by the 3, 6s, and 9s primarily. For those of you who don't know what I'm talking about, you've probably looked at engines or motors, magnets that have been wound with copper wire. When you do that, when you wind the copper, coil the copper around the magnet, it enhances the energy dramatically. That's what your DNA is. It's an antenna to the Creator. Technically, the scientists call it photon-phonon emissions for intercellular communications. That's the primary function of DNA. Photon is sound. I'm sorry, phonon is sound. Photon is light. So sound and light signaling. And before there was light, there was the water and the sound. So sound and light signals come into the cells, and the DNA is in a matrix of water, mostly structured. Star of David, like he held on his shield for protection. This is an amulet. It's called Solomon's seal. Look it up in Webster's. It's called an amulet for the prevention of fevers and the elimination of fevers. That's infectious disease. Prevention. Elimination. So this whole concept of your DNA acting as a spiritual receiver and uplifter. Sources from the mathematics, and it's not what the Rockefeller eugenics industry tells us DNA is all about. They say the function of DNA is to serve as a template for the production of new proteins. You have DNA going to RNA to amino acid, bringing together amino acids at the ribosome, the genetic or the controlled protein manufacturing station of the cell to build new proteins and cell parts. That's what they say all of genetics is about. It's a template, they say. But you know what that is? It's less than 4%. It's about 3% of the function of DNA. Just like you're using 95% of your brains, they've secreted and suppressed that part of you, just like they've done the same thing with genetics. 93% of the function of DNA is light and sound reception and transmission. Photon, phonon, reception, transmission for intercellular communication and cellular upregulation. You know what cellular upregulation means? It means precipitation. In the now, every millisecond, instant second, you're remanifesting right now in water. I know it doesn't seem like walking on the water. We are in water. This is well hydrated. But you see, there's spiritual different types of states of water. We're not like the dolphins. Water is the most energy conductive of all of the materials. It's a superconductor. That's why you can have a whale in Hawaii sing to his relatives in South Africa. Superconductor of sound. We're in water right now, whether you know it or not. It's hydrated atmosphere. And this is what we're talking about. We're actually in the now. Your beautiful blue eyes, in other words, who we thank your parents for. We say your blue eyes are the result of parents. Wrong! That's 3% of your blue eyes are the result of your parents. Thanks your parents for 3% of your beautiful blue eyes. Thank God right now for 94% of your blue eyes. Because for every now, every instant, they're remanifesting. If we have expanded senses, we're able to slow our own perceptions down and magnify them acutely. We would be able to see them precipitating as a spiritual manifestation of divine frequency vibration. That's what that is. So this concept of you looking at God, God looking at you, being with you constantly, all the time, responding to your prayers. Gee whiz, you know, if there's nothing else that you can understand to turn that faith and trust switch on, I don't know. You got to be brain dead. See, because it's not you. It's God you. You're not alone. Your simple presence here right now, based on the science and the mathematics. Forget the Bible. Based on the simple science of mathematics, is you're a holy child of God, created right here, right now, miraculously, through sound. You are the music. Bioholographic precipitation, crystallization, miraculous manifestation of God's glorification, physical manifestation of a miracle, a walking miracle. You're a walking miracle. It is absolutely miraculous at this moment how it is that we're not all dead, given the pollution and the intoxication and the destruction all around us. Our mere presence speaks to the glory and power of our Creator. Now, to further share with you and show you the science by which I can share with you assuredly, your DNA is an antenna to the Creator that operates like a Tesla coil because of the creative juice in you. Water. Specifically, most frequently, the matrix of DNA is the six-sided hexagonal-shaped structured water molecule. And this is from science that Lee Lorenzen shared with me, and he shared this with Dr. Emoto. This is from the journal Science. This is from Ron Sakely's team, University of California, Berkeley, water scientists, who took DNA and evaluated how much energy potential is held in the genetic strands, and then changed the structured water matrix. They pulled the water out of the matrix and then rechecked to see if the strands were still spiritually or energetically active. And so here you can see 4 strands of DNA in that beautiful Tesla coil structure. Here particularly you can see, if you lay this on its side, you see the structure of the double wing in Rodin's infinity pattern. And here you see negative 212. Here is negative 217 as an energy measure. And if they eliminated as little as 8% of the structured water out of the matrix, you lose the structure. It unfolds, and look at what happens to the energy signaling. Negative 12.3 goes down dramatically. So this is what I'm saying to you. Now, in the last segment, you learned about how the heart, we've talked about how the heart is resonating at 528 love hertz frequency to the center of the universe, resonating in sync. Your heartbeat is timed, ideally by nature, exactly like that. You're in communion with nature. It has the heart-mind intelligence. It provides that intuitive or right brain function. And that the connection to the sacred spiraling of all the DNA is operating through this water-filled structure. That's what's really uplifting. And that the energy that's being, again, pumped out of you in tune with the Creator is all working in sync. It's like a divine harmony. Again, that's why I say it's the universal orchestra. The master conductor, master composer of the universal orchestra is singing love songs to everything, uplifting everything simultaneously, particularly you, through this antenna, which is in every single cell. That means that every single cell of your body has this energy capability. It has this divine intelligence. What does that mean? That means the first entities that you should be communing with in order to uplift yourself, sustain yourself, heal yourself, is the billions of cells in your body that have its own unique genetic intelligence, its own sacred spiral to the Creator. And I've often talked about this. You know, you heard Yeshua proclaim that if you had as little faith as a mustard seed, you could move mountains. You know, and the question I bring is, how much faith and trust does a mustard seed have? The answer is infinite. Why? Because it doesn't have this dumbed down, mind-controlled, enslaved, left-brain, egoic mind to limit it. All it is, what is a mustard seed? It's this little power pack of DNA, a sacred spiral strand. That's doing what? It's embathed in this creative juice called water, and it's a Tesla coil. It's bringing in all this powerful spirit flow, and all it wants to do is burst out, blowing rocks and mountains out of the way. So there you have a full understanding of what the Messiah preached. There's nothing missing, nothing broken, nothing limiting the kingdom of heaven manifesting on earth in your Holy Spirit-filled temples. Nothing but you. There's nobody out there. It's you. It's your projection. It's your creation. We're going to get back into this when we discuss fear a little later. So to play with this, I was asked by David Schmidt from the LifeWave folks. You know those little energy patches that you put on your skin that are resonating and changing your physiology based on water resonance? He asked me to participate in the company, LifeWave, and so I thought, with my respect for people that he was working with, I said, let me see what I can do. I came up with these little energy patches, stickers and Klingons, called the 3E, or the water energizers. And what it was is simply the perfect circle of sound. The initial patch, you know how Dr. Emoto recommends putting love and thanks on water, and it changes the resonance, the words and the letters and the intent, mostly the loving intent, because you're so powerful, because the energy is in your heart. The intelligence is in your heart. Your heart's in communion with Creator, so that the energy of the positive, loving intent, like you heard Dr. Pearsall say, that, you know, in a laboratory miles away, if you start exercising, your heart cells are going to reflect that miles away, or you're going to have this intelligent communication into the water, which is the blessed creative juice. We all know, those of us who have any sense of reasonableness and faith, that prayer works. How does it work? Because there's a loving, heartfelt intent to do good. And that loving, heartfelt intent is connected directly to the musical, mathematical matrix in the source. And so the concept of taking the sacred geometry and mathematics of the musical divinity, putting it into the image of a perfect circle of sound, putting 528 highlighted at the center, putting love and thanks. Now you can see how I came up with this. You don't need a rocket scientist degree to realize it. And so what Dr. Emoto did was he took it back to Japan, sent it to Japan, and you know there's messages in water. He's the researcher who has three New York Times bestsellers now. One is called The Message in Water. The other is called The Hidden Messages in Water. And he takes, under 20,000 magnification, crystalline flash frozen water that's been prepared for 12 hours with whatever you're trying to see if it has some sort of a change in structuring or a message in the water. This was one of the beautiful crystals that he sent me back that gets created by the 3E, which when we tested it on the electrodermal machinery, you know, there's little electrodes you can put on your skin, and it runs into machines, which diagnoses how much energy is coming out of certain acupuncture meridians. And then the most sophisticated ones can actually do a very amazing analysis of everything. I mean, the most advanced units today can do 9,000 tests in 2 minutes, tell you everything that you've forgotten about your birth, about everything. And then, because it's frequency, it's all energy, they can flip. Again, like cures like. So if you've got a wave, let's say, that's going in this direction, causing disease, or too much amplitude, or too much energy here, you hit it with the opposite, equal and opposite to cancel it out. It's real simple. It's based on what I showed you. Creative technology, word, sound, frequency, mathematics, resonance, waveforms, and the technology based on that. I mean, right now we have colleagues who have taken your voice print. Imagine, here's healing in the 21st century. Really. It hasn't been, if it wouldn't be suppressed, here's what we would be doing for healing right now. And somebody's going to do this. I invite anybody to collaborate to do this. I can't wait to see it. I came up with this idea about almost 10 years ago now. Going into a little kiosk, you know, like a photo booth in your health food stores or in your supermarkets. And you walk in and it's got 9 speakers around you, and you put in $1 or you put in $5 and it takes your voice print. And then it registers exactly what your voices are and exactly the way I'm telling you now, because it's a holistic being you are, that your voice also reflects as the creative instrument. It holds all of the life knowledge, all of the intelligence, including how much organ system has too much energy, how much has too little, and suddenly you begin to realize all you have to do is play back and adjust the voice pattern. So you could sit in a virtual, 3D sound chamber, have that sound come into you, change the resonant frequency of your Holy Spirit fluid in your body, your water, and then essentially you'd leave there healed. So that's one of many, many things that we have the understanding of now. This, by the way, is one of the beautiful crystals that Dr. Emoto showed. We pray over water. How about a message in the water that the water's praying for us? Here you have a water molecule, a massive amount. Actually, this is about 1 million water molecules that came together in a specific shape to deliver a message to humanity, which is we're praying for you to get it together. And interestingly enough, when we place these 3 E's on people's acupressure points and then took those energy readings using that instrumentation, between 80 and 85% of the time, we always saw one organ system, one energy meridian, consistently enhanced. The pineal gland, the spiritual processing station. And then the good doctor just came up at the break, who we're going to invite to speak a little bit tonight at the for the dinner hour, showed me the current Rife machine frequency list that he's got there, that he looked in to see if they had the 528 frequency. And where is the 528 frequency? In the sequence for bio-spiritual transformation. That's where it is. So this is transformational technology based on the simplest of mathematics. So the concept of praying over water, praying over water to have a dramatic effect, this was Dr. Emoto's greatest contribution, that you can take muddied water like this. This is actually 20,000 magnification of water that is consistent with all of the municipal water systems, all the fluoridated and chlorinated water systems that the public health officials allegedly give us to protect us. In fact, they're simply poisoning us. At the highest levels, it is absolutely certain that there's no need for this. You think about this. We now know that the most expensive, and they're the most expensive and most effective of all of the water purification systems in the industry, is ultraviolet light. The light, the frequency resonance, kills the pathogens. How expensive would it be for us to really install all that type of technology for mass municipal water systems? It really wouldn't be that significantly expensive. There would be certainly ways to reduce the cost, to make it cost-effective, cost-beneficial. But instead, what are we doing? We're poisoning the system, poisoning God, poisoning the triune God, poisoning the water, poisoning the bloodstreams of humanity. That's sick. That's not public health. That's genocide. And so the concept that could take the worst impure water and with faith and trust and loving, heartfelt intent, dramatically change it, purify it. Truth that shall set us free from environmental toxicity. So the concept that your being, your whole being is this, as I said, bioholographic precipitation, crystallization, miraculous manifestation of divine frequency vibration coming to you in living color. And you think about this for a second. Again, going back to how it's right in front of your face, this concept of how we're going to get out of this mess, this concept of the music that shall set us free. Think about the most famous band, rock band in history. Who are they? Not Led Zeppelin. The Beatles. The Beatles. That was my favorite concert of all time. New York, Madison Square Garden, 1972, I think it was. The Beatles, who I saw in 1968 in Boston. Couldn't hear one thing. It's all screams. But what did the Beatles give us that is exactly what I'm telling you?
Harmonics.
Yeah, beyond harmonics. They gave you a feature-length movie, an animation called Yellow Submarine. What was the whole storyline? It was where you had this magnificent people full of living color. All they were doing is vibing and being creative in love and harmony, and they were playing divine music and symphonies from Sgt. Pepper playing for the community to the quartets, and all of a sudden, who comes along but the blue meanies? This concept of beware of those who call themselves Jews who are not, said the Messiah. Today is beware of those who call themselves Christians who are not, or beware of those who call themselves Muslims who are not. Anyway, the concept of this being a Jewish conspiracy, this globalist manipulation, a Jewish conspiracy, is in the film. You have the professor, the wise old professor, the nowhere man. This blue meanies come and attack. And the big boss, the crime boss, is approached by the professor, and he says, "You don't look bluish." Beware of those who call themselves Jews who are not. And then what happens is that the military of the blue meanies come and they take away all the music. They take the instruments. They incarcerate the instruments. And the living color, divinely created people turn into fragile black and white. That little bombs go off, mostly sound vibration bombs that shake them and they fall into pieces. And it was the mission of Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band to rally the troops, to infiltrate, to release the instruments that are being captive. Symbol before? That's the warning symbol. Warning. Don't come here. Don't go there. Don't go to the spiritual portal for the heavenly domain. You dumb humans. Don't go there. Right? And then there's the other harmonics. Star of David, you have to understand this is the center of here. This is like a cross-section of the genetic strand. And my personal belief, based on what I'm looking at, is that the double helix is actually a triple helix. I believe that DNA has got to be 3 6s and 9s. So the cross-section that you're looking at of a DNA strand, really, is got this circulating, spinning, rotating Star of David structure at the center, Solomon's seal, and then you've seen this one, the ancient sun symbol revered by all the native cultures. That's the source of it. The best defense is a powerful offense. And it's time we use the truth that shall set us free as the offensive weapon. They're killing us. We can't be silent. This conspiracy of silence, at minimum, is the cause of our own demise. So get active. And I see that this product, OxySilver, is we need all the help we can get to disseminate this technology for humanity's physical salvation and, more importantly, spiritual evolution. Because when you share with people the truth about how this works, how does water work? How does God work? It's over. Suddenly, you say, oh man, I got to teach my children this. And then you start educating them in simple mathematics, polymath, polyhistory, this whole concept of what water really is and does. Now we bring our lives back to simplicity, earlier state of affairs. I wrote the book for the Christian community, by and large. Those who have no eyes to see nor ears to hear that crystals were created by the Creator, not Satan. Okay? Satan did not create anything. Satan destroys and confuses everything. Creator created the minerals, the rocks, the crystallization factors, water being itself a major crystal and structure. So Healing Celebrations is a beautiful, nurturing, loving effort to bring Scripture to modern science, to demystify how miraculous healings are made to come about. It should not be strange. You're a miracle. We've talked about that. That miraculous healings can be made to come about because you're a miracle worker and you are the manifestation of a miraculous blessing. So it should not be foreign to us. Again, the sad reality is we're engaged in this urgency of our time. You're looking at the advertisements placed, one of the advertisements placed in the most esteemed political periodical in the world called Journal of Foreign Affairs, published by the Council of Foreign Relations, that calls for a 50+% decrease in the United States' population. So U.S. population size optimum, it says between range of 125 to 130 million, or about the size of it was back in the 1940s. Well, right now it's over 300 million. That means half of you sitting in this room should no longer be here. And they're doing it in the most cost-beneficial way. I don't have the time to get into it here. I get into it in other works. Get the new documentary called In Lies We Trust. We have a few of them back on the table. If there's not enough to go around, you can get online, watch the whole thing on Google. You can watch 16 parts of it on YouTube. This all goes back, as I mentioned briefly, to the IG Farben petrochemical pharmaceutical cartel, current Rockefeller family monopolized medical industry, began seriously in the 1920s, and we've never recovered since. It is sad that our doctors are being miseducated and blinded by this type of programming, this hazing process they call continuing medical education or medical education process. I can tell you that, for example, when you go through cult indoctrinations, you're kept from sleep, you're kept stressed, you're peer pressured, you've got all of these pressures coming down on you, you're traumatized, you're abused, and that sounds exactly like medical training. So the cult indoctrination methods, the standard ones, are used in medicine today. So we don't really have true healers that come out. We have mind control slaves of the global industrialists, the Illuminati, the Rockefeller-directed public health and medical agenda. We have, in essence, Manchurian candidates, killers, trained killers who have licenses to kill, and they do it all the time. Even though they take a Hippocratic oath, right, which is supposed to say, above all, do no harm, they're doing massive damage. So this is where now we find ourselves, the urgency. The number one understanding that you have to bring to healing is this thing called a holistic model. That we're more than a mind. We have a mind, and yet we can watch its negative thoughts, and we can supersede its negative thoughts. We can say, no, that's not what I want to think. We can substitute positive affirmations instead of listening to the lunacy that is self-destructive and socially undermining. So we have a body, mind, emotions, imagination, intuition, and will. An I will center that has the capacity to direct, the choice making. The most powerful thing that the Creator gave human beings is this will to choose. You can choose your thoughts. That means you're more than your mind. You can choose the feelings. If you don't like how you're feeling, get up and exercise. You know, think positive and do some positive affirmations. You change the energy, change the negative emotion. Unfortunately, I was in Canada last week. 1/4 of all Canadians are on psychotropic drugs right now. 1/4 of all Canadians are on psychotropic drugs, mostly for depression.
What is it
So,
in the U.S.?
It's in the U.S. It's probably close to that. But the reality is a tragic reality and an urgency. And it's all part of this cult indoctrination. So to free ourselves, we need to choose. That is the will. The I will center of self-awareness has the capacity to direct all the subordinate parts of the human personality. The mind, the emotions, the body, the intuition, the imagination. All of these are very powerful for bringing us forward to better results. Better results is simply choice making. And lifestyle risk reduction is about the choices that you make in your own life to stay away from that which causes illness. Now, the essential model for what I'm talking about, I published in 2 previous journal articles in the American Journal of School Health. One in a theory paper, and then an actual trial in schools and 3rd graders. I can tell you that 3rd graders can grasp what I'm about to tell you. It starts, your process for health and healing and healthy human development starts with understanding the value of simple things, like your own health. Okay? And so that blessing, health, among the most powerful values. If you lose your health, you lose everything. You can't be socially productive. The fabric that binds humanity, society together is this concept of service. Human service. We've got to be able to feel like we're worthy and we're providing a worthy service, and other people are benefited from the service. That is the highest human value that is totally eliminated when you lose your health. Now you become dependent on others to take care of you. You can't give to them. You now have to take. So among the highest values that you want to establish your goals is to achieve higher level wellness and optimal wellness. And the awareness then at this I will center of awareness and decision making, where you know you've got this mind, but it's now shutting it off. It's throwing the switch to shut it down, to open the heart mind instead of the egoic, fear-based mind. Thoughts, aware of thoughts, body sensations, and emotions and feelings. Becoming aware of those 3 elements then enables you to live a full life engaged in the natural process called cybernetics. What is that? Cybernetics is defined as, quote, the system of feedback and communications in all living and non-living systems. Notice what I'm drawing right now is a circle, a revolution, revolution, evolution. System of feedback and communications in all living and non-living systems is a circular loop, a feedback loop. The rocks, the inanimate objects, the non-organic material, everything in the universe, because you see, I shared with you Nassim Harameyn's model of the musical mathematical matrix of the universe. It's in a revolution-evolution cycle. It's all feedback and communications. That's how judgment is laid out now. You understand now the dynamics of as you sow, so shall you reap. So if you make a choice to sow a malicious action. The results end up no fun. The feedback comes back to haunt you. If you sow a positive action, make a positive choice for your own healthier, happier, more successful human development. The choices that you make consistent with those values and goals give you a life that's more fun and productive. The feedback comes and you feel better about yourself, and you feel better physically, emotionally, and physically. That's the cybernetic system that's operating in you, that's consistent with everything that the Creator gave us. Your immune system, which is the #1 most vital blessing for health maintenance, is a metaphor for your godliness. It's a metaphor for your self-esteem. How so? Well, what's the function of the immune system? It's to determine the difference between self and non-self. It seeks out and destroys that which is not you. The bacteria, the viruses, the cancer cells. It destroys those and then nurtures your own cells. So that if you don't know who you are, if you don't know that you're a capable, worthy, blessed being, a holy child, spirit-filled, son and daughter of the Creator, brother or sister of the Messiah, if you don't know that, then you don't really truly have self-esteem. You don't know who you really are. Then how can you expect your immune system to know the difference between self and non-self either? It can't. So your immunity is a metaphor for your spirituality. And that's, by the way, why the global industrialists, the satanic sorcerers, the drug industrialists have been targeting immunity. That's why they've just changed over the last decade the definition of immunization. Flash, news, vaccination is not immunization. But you don't even see that anymore when you go into the definitions. They've changed the definitions. Immunization used to mean a natural exposure to pathogens, inducing a natural, normal immune reaction that maintains memory, long-term acquired immunity. That was the real definition of immunization. Now they've changed it to make it seem like this is the natural thing to do. Get vaccinated. So the concept of attacking and destroying, like the AIDS virus, like they created in the labs, something that attacks and destroys and reverses that God's greatest blessing for protecting health. And they started with the transplants, the organ transplants, the heart transplants. What did they have to do to get the hearts to not be rejected? Suppress the immune system with the steroids, the corticosteroids, which now they're given all the inflammatory conditions, everything, all this garbage that they're reducing the immune system. In essence, stealing God's own surveillance capacity within your own Holy Spirit-filled temple. So I've talked about this triune God, the creative juice, the Aleph, Hawaii, tetrahedron structure of water, the 3 6s and 9s. We've talked about all this, and it all has to do with H2O, water. Those two elements, hydrogen and oxygen, have intimate connection to every aspect of physiology, immunity, metabolism. It's not about making money. This is about celebrating some awesome revelation. To do what with? To heal people. To heal this planet. That's what this is about. This is about fulfilling what the Messiah said. He said, you will do more than what I have done. And if we are agreed, like all the prophets say, that we're in the end times, if not now, when? If we're agreed, if Malsim Harbin says that 2012, 4 years from now, we're about to enter into the event horizon and everything's going to change, shift dramatically, and other people have doom and gloom scenarios, if not now, when? So this is the time to take this information, to prepare your own Holy Spirit-filled temples, to be the best that you can be, to administer the greatest, most powerful healings and blessings that you can administer. That's why I would recommend doing a 40-day fast. If you remember correctly, Yeshua's messianic evolution accelerated dramatically after he said, Satan, you get behind me. I'm doing a 40-day fast in the desert, and when I come out, I'm going to start making a big difference. So that's what this program is really about today. It's about educating, edifying the congregation of movers and shakers who will do more than what even Yeshua did. Adding fasting and sweating. That's why the sweat lodges are so wonderful. The native sweat lodges and the steam saunas in Hawaii, we're getting such wonderful blessings from that. Exercising, massage therapies, lymphatic massages to move the lymphatics. You've got to use it or lose it. The lymphatics is what detoxes. You've got to move that. It doesn't pump from your heart. It moves physically. It moves because of your action. And it changes. When that lymph moves and you detox, also the movement changes the emotion. You ever notice how you might feel down or depressed and you go out and you jog or you exercise and suddenly the depression's gone? Emotion. The word itself is a tip-off. Emotion. Put yourself in motion. The E, energy, changes dramatically. So there's other ways of pulling these toxins and heavy metals out. Least expensive is the clays. Clay packs, clay baths, all sorts of clay. Actually, there's bentonite even that you take internally. Clays that pull heavy metals out of your body. Chelation agents, homeopathics, herbs, botanicals, right frequency generators. All of these things can be used. Natural ways to pull the toxins out and begin the restoration process. The silver hydrosols, as I said, will cause a massive detoxification reaction. So please be careful of the need for water and hydration. Now, deacidification is critical because you see everything is H2O oriented. H, positive, O, negative, right? H2, two positives, one oxygen molecule, one negative in the atomic structure of Yod He Vov He, the I am that I am. So you have to understand the electron donor that I've talked about is hydrogen. H plus indicates the electron is spun off of it, leaving the charged ion of hydrogen, positively charged. Caffeine, nicotine, sugar, refined carbohydrates, the bad chocolates, the great chocolates, the organic chocolates, the dark, rich, real chocolates from cacao, awesome, healthy. But the garbage that they give us, ooh, man, oof, forget it. Caffeine, nicotine, sugar, refined carbohydrates, stress. There's one factor that you've got to work on yourself. Stress. Pharmaceuticals, alcohol, and lots of red meats. That's the top 7. Caffeine, nicotine, sugar, stress, alcohol, pharmaceuticals, and red meats cause your body to become acidified. The meats are hard to digest. You need a lot of stomach acid. What you don't digest ends up little portions of it in the blood. Now you're putting out the gall, the juices, uric acid, acid. Your Holy Spirit-filled temple becomes this burning hell. In that state, it facilitates the growth of bacteria, viruses, fungus, yeast. You become an incubator for pathogens. Cancer cells, arthritic conditions, inflammatory conditions, all of this is simply associated with the fact that we've been miseducated and simply do not know what's correct choices in lifestyle with regarding those 7 factors. So you see, when you acidify, at the same time, you're deoxygenating. Why? How? Well, think about this. This is an understanding that you should take home and tell everybody. Here's what happens. When you get a Charlie horse, you know a muscle spasm, let's say in your leg, right? It's painful. Oh, that hurts. Oh, that muscle spasm hurts. You know what's happening? That muscle is in spasm to remain in spasm. The energy that it's using is intense, and it's peeing out lactic acid. Acid, acid, acid. Like you, it's breathing oxygen, it's gobbling up oxygen, so it's reducing oxygen in that fluid, so you have hypoxia. At the same time, you have hyperacidification of the environment. To get the muscle to relax, you've got to massage it out. You've got to massage it out. You've got to drink alkalized water. Okay? Let's say a foreign protein gets injected into your system. It lands on your own body proteins. So let's say you have a piece of your own protein here and a foreign bacterial virus injected protein here. Now this is called an antigenic complex. That your white blood cell bodyguard, the big macrophage, comes along, this big eater, comes along and grabs, devours this and gobbles it up and chews it up, and it recognizes it, alerts it to the amino acid sequence, the protein sequence, that it says, hey guys, it alerts the rest of the immune system, the whole army of white blood cell bodyguards. It says, if you ever see this, attack and destroy. It doesn't differentiate enough between self and non-self. And so now the rest of the white blood cell bodyguards come and start attacking and destroying not just the foreign protein, but the tissues against which it's attached. That's your own body. That is called autoimmune disease. Now you've just diagnosed the primary reason, far and away, for all the new plagues. Chronic fatigue immune dysfunction, fibromyalgia, lupus, MS, ALS and Lou Gehrig's disease, chronic crippling rheumatoid arthritis, adult and juvenile type 1 diabetes, Crohn's disease, Guillain-Barré that my mother died from after getting the flu vaccines. Come, elderly, medical deities call. Come get your free vaccines at Safeway. What do you get for free today? Genocide. It's free. So now you've got those diseases and more. That's just the short list. Now here's with the knowledge, the understanding, you've got to sedate, you've got to normalize your immune system. You've got to get rid of the toxins and normalize the immune system. And so the inflammatory reaction that's getting created as all this host of white blood cell bodyguards are attacking and destroying your own system, like this chronic inflammatory condition called arthritis, where the joints are all swollen and red, painful. How do you subdue that, sedate that, normalize it? Primary factors. God, add some God to the system. Bring in the water. Alkalinization. pH adjusting, because again, inflammation means that the cells are gobbling up oxygen, so you have hypoxia, always associated with inflammation, and you have hyperacidification associated with inflammation. A company named Metazone that has tried to get onto the New York Stock Exchange and get their product to market for years. I personally visited Basil Wainwright's clinic in Africa. I personally interviewed a dozen patients who had gone through the polyatomic oxygen therapy, injecting the blood with polyatomic oxygen and having miraculously HIV loads drop dramatically and then be completely eliminated. Totally restoring these people to health. Suppressed. He was thrown out of the United States. He was arrested. He was sanctioned. He had to leave the United States, and he set up by the personal direction of His Excellency Arap Moi from Kenya, the President of Kenya, his clinic in Nairobi. I visited there. And the sad reality is, this is so obvious, so spiritual, such a blessing to teach people the truth. Peter Jennings on the ABC News carried a segment whereby paraplegics and quadriplegics, neurologically impaired people, went into hyperbaric oxygenation chambers, and under pressure the oxygen forced down through the skin, into the lungs, through the lungs, into the neurology, miraculously brought these nerves back to life. Well, how did the Creator get Adam off the ground? Breathe the breath of life, the ha, into him. The aloha, the loving ha, the loving breath. The word itself is a tip-off. Oxygenation is the most powerful of all the healing elements. And the concept of it being actually in the Creator's name is obviously so. Yod-He Vav-He, Yehovah, literally translated, means to breathe is to exist. Existence is dependent, contingent upon oxygen being delivered. Obviously so. But you know what? The word respiration, re-spiritualization, bringing that Holy Spirit power in through the ha, the breath, the prana. The number one question they always ask me is, aren't you afraid they're going to kill you? Tonight we're supposed to see Jeff Rentz here, who wrote me saying that he did not think he was going to be able to make it because he's received a couple death threats. So the issue of fear in this work of truth-telling that we do is a major issue, impacting the level of faith and trust that we bring to our work. So people ask me, aren't you afraid? The context of that question comes out of fear. It comes out of the context of faith and trust, not. And I used to answer that a number of different ways. I used to answer that all true ways. I used to say, well, you know what? You know, quite honestly, I have lots of people who pray for me. And I know I have protective angels. There's been people who have said to me that they've seen angels around me. My wife can tell you that when I wrote that book, she's in the back, ask her. There was the angels that wrote the book, Healing Codes for the Biological Apocalypse. I went into a virtual trance for 6 months. And that doesn't really give it all fullest understanding. You're looking at a person who should have died at least 3 times that I'm aware of. That there's no rational explanation for me to be here. And that's not to say probably the dozens of other times that I should have died that I didn't even know about. So I'll just give you one of those times. Just one of those times, so that you can begin to understand this level of fear versus faith. I was in love. Love, the great healer, the great protector. I was in love, losing the love of my life at the time. I was 21 years of age. I had just broken up with a girlfriend that I had. I was in love with all summer long. We had a wonderful, wonderful summer. And now I went back to Rutgers University in New Brunswick, New Jersey. It was my sophomore year. I was just out of the dorm. I was down in the ghetto, and I went. I didn't have a phone. I needed to call her because I needed to save the relationship. She had just told me that she was going to see other guys. She went off to Bennington College up north, and I was not going to see her anymore, she said. And I'm now going to this phone next to this huge church downtown New Brunswick, New Jersey, the middle of the ghetto, and I'm calling her in a phone booth, a glass phone booth. You know you can't step forward. You step in, and then you close the door, and that's all you can go. And I'm on the line with her, and I see, as I'm pleading with her to maintain the relationship, I see a group of about 8 guys coming my way. They get up to the phone booth, and they start banging their fists on the phone booth, and I'm smiling. I wasn't afraid. I was in love. I got her on the other line. If I don't keep talking and keep telling her how much I love her and I want to be with her, I'm not going to have a relationship. That was more important than my life at that moment. I didn't think about dying at that moment. It was about 30 seconds that went by after that moment, and all of a sudden, I heard a crash. And things became really strange. It was though I went into a time-space warp where things got very etheric and crystalline. I saw a bunch of crystalline structures flying all around. I saw this red trail. And then it seemed like maybe a couple seconds later, I heard another crash, and then everything came back to normal again, like normal speed. I go, what was that? And I looked over here to my left, and there was a huge gaping hole with broken glass. And then I realized there's glass everywhere. There's glass all over me. There's glass everywhere. Huge broken glass is just to the left of my head. I go, what's that? What? And I said, what is it? And I turned to here, and then I see the glass over here is all cracked, but not smashed through. And then I looked down, and there was a red brick. I literally had a red brick go through my head. And there I stood with not a scratch on my body. No blood anywhere. It was a time warp. But what it was is what half of you in this audience have experienced. Now watch this. How many of you have had death or near-death experiences? Raise your hands. Okay, now look around. You got about half the room, maybe more. Now watch this. Of you who have had those experiences, did you experience like this kind of a time-space warp where things got a little etheric or where things went into slow motion and then suddenly when it was all over it came back? Raise your hands high. Look around the room. Same number of hands up. You know what you've just proven? You've just proven how much the Creator loves you. You've just proven how much the Creator loves humanity. Can you imagine the intelligence and the depth of love and compassion that would be in the Creator's heart to design into the system at the moment of the most potentially horrific, traumatic experiences of your life, you might suddenly go instantly into this protective cocoon and then come back out of it as though the Creator had his hand on you and ransomed you to do more important work that you were not done yet. That is how much the Creator loves you and loves us. To realize that what you experienced is this kingdom of heaven here on earth. Not just near, but right here. That it's a parallel universe. It's a parallel reality. It's part of the mathematical matrix that has at least 9 dimensions, if not 27, that the scientists say that they have discovered. We operate in this limited Babylonian box in 3-dimensional space. And there's all this other miraculous reality happening right here, right now. And in that reality, we're brothers. And we're brothers and sisters. And we're divine superhumans, not just humans. And we have the capacity to have arrows and bullets and bricks move through us where we're not harmed because we're in love. Now, if you have that understanding now, do you see that the question, aren't you afraid they're going to kill you, seems ridiculous? Infantile. Especially when you realize you're going to die. We're all going to die. Question is, what are you going to do while you're here? And are you going to worry about it? Gee whiz. Do you enjoy sleep? You like sleep?
Yes.
I love sleep. I don't know about you. What's the worst that could happen? You go to sleep. And play in the dream world. So, faith and trust is really what turns you not only immortal and eternal. But it also enables you to give the responsibility to the boss. Because if now you understand that you've been ransomed, you've been even saved from death. If you understand that, then there's a greater purpose and mission that you've got to do by the boss's design, not yours or mine. And then if you understand that, gee whiz, you realize, holy smoke, it's not me, it is of him. Him, her. The male, female creator. And so you don't have any problems. Do you get that? You don't have any problems. You got no problems except you got that ego mechanism that bought into the deception. That's all you got. That's the only thing that's limiting you. That's why I said there's nobody out there but you and the boss. And so what you end up doing then is if you think you got a problem, what you do with the appropriate thought is you give that to the Creator. Hey, boss, I don't want this. Take it away from me. Do me a favor. You got a problem. Please solve it. I can't do this work without you. If it's your project, get rid of that problem for me. And if the problem doesn't go away, boss, guess what? You know what? Maybe it's supposed to be in my life just for me to learn whatever I need to learn and grow, get beyond my own barriers, my own self-limitations. You got to watch what you pray for. I prayed for a legal education. That was wrong. Stupid prayer. Just imagine that. A Levitical priest praying for a legal education. Oh, and I would have whacked. Harlan knows how much I've been whacked in Hawaii praying for that one, right? Gee whiz. You got to watch what you pray for. You know, where they can get you is where you step out of that cocoon of love. You step one step out of righteousness, right standingness. The concept of sin comes from the Greek archery term. And this basic, fundamental understanding of the mathematics of the matrix, where there's nothing missing. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. It's perfect and it's simple. Nothing missing, nothing broken therein. Now that's 528. At the center of that is love. You step out of love. You get into dissonance, disharmony, dis-ease. That's sin. Sin sources, the word comes from the Greek archery term, to be off the mark. You're no longer in the flow. You're out of the matrix. You're violating the basic fundamental laws of the universe, that is the kingdom of heaven included, by staying in your head versus your heart. So you give that to the Creator as well. If you think that you got too much thoughts and too many concerns, the best thing to do is give that to the Creator. It's just one more problem you can give the Creator. The Creator will handle it. If you listen to what He says and do everything I tell you, then I will be an enemy to your enemies and a foe to your foes. God will bless your food, water. Take away sickness from among you. Your women will not be barren, and you will live out the full span of your life. That's best accomplished. Faith and trust, and staying in the matrix. Staying in the mathematical music of divinity. So here's the mustard seed. Here's Elena a little bit later. I guess Elena's not back yet. This was another experience. This is not one of the 3 experiences that I relate to. Not one of the 1 experiences that I relate to when I say I had a near-death experience. This is not one. But I'm going to relay it anyway, because it's a great point. Are you listening to what I'm saying? Are you really hearing what I'm saying? Or is it going in one ear and out another? Moreover, what is this great battle between good versus evil? What's the dynamics of this? What's our chances of surviving and thriving? Yea, though we walk through this valley of the shadow of death, we shall fear no evil, because we're engaged in this kingdom of heaven, protected in this cocoon of love. So what brings about this whole dynamic? Well, here's a story, a true story. This is a picture of Elena. Several years ago now, we went to Atlanta, and I was going to take her after Atlanta, where I was to teach a chiropractic seminar. 250 chiropractors were being assembled by a friend of mine named John, who's a leading chiropractor. And I was, the day before, troubled with an associate who told me Satan doesn't exist. That there's no top head evil honcho out there in the spirit realm operating. And I've been at spiritual warfare, I've been battled, and I truly in my heart, I've experienced the most bizarre spiritual entities that I personally don't feel I created. Maybe they were created certainly to teach me a lesson, but there was something there, and so I was troubled by the assertion that, you know, the demonic realm doesn't exist and it's all my own personal projection. So I asked the Creator, I said, show me the relationship between you and Satan in your word. So I studied the Bible again. I went back into that Bible and I read as much as I could. I reread the book of Job, and there it talks about good versus evil, and read even in the Apocrypha, the wisdom of Solomon there. And there it talks about, again, issues of good versus evil. And I thought I was 99% sure that my colleague didn't know what the heck he was talking about. There is a spiritual dominion of evil out there operating. But 99% sure ain't good enough for Dr. Horowitz. Not good enough for Arya ben Shlomo Halevi. So the next day I got onto a plane. And I was taking my little daughter Elena with me down to eventually South Florida through Atlanta. After I was going to do the seminar, I was going to go down and take her to Disney World, where Dad and his little girl would have fun. And so we're on the plane, and I'm teaching her as a homeschooler now math. And what I'm telling her is going in one ear and it's coming out the other. And I'm there sitting on a 5-hour flight, really frustrated, because I know she's got the intelligence. She's just not listening and receiving what I'm telling her. I get off the plane frustrated. John Donofrio picks us up. He's got a car full, a mid-sized rental car. Trunk is full of seminar manuals. He doesn't have room for our luggage. He invited a couple chiropractic colleagues to take our bags to the hotel, and now we are en route to the hotel. We're on, I think it's 295 in Atlanta, the main thoroughfare that goes right next to Atlanta. It's 6 o'clock at night, so you can imagine it's still rush hour, and it's a 5-lane highway, and the traffic is like a parking lot moving at 55 miles an hour to 65 miles an hour. And so in that traffic, I'm now telling John about my most recent revelation, and he's a spirit-filled Catholic, and he's just grooving on it. He's not paying attention, nor am I, as to where he is. He's driving in the blind spot of an 18-wheeler who decides he's going to shift lanes at that very moment into our lane. Smashes us in the right front quarter of the car, and then we entered into one of those moments that we just talked about. The last thing I remember in this particular incident that was not slow motion was the car went like this, and now we're driving this way, 55 miles an hour, going sideways in the middle of a 5-lane highway. We're in the 3rd lane over from the right. So things got etheric, but as soon as I saw that happening, I realized that John no longer maintained any control over this vehicle. I went to the boss, and I said, Heavenly Creator, this became my mantra for that entire period. Heavenly Creator, we need your angels of protection. Please give us our angels of protection. Please, we need your angels of protection now. And that's where my heart was. Totally connected, pleading, not even for my own life, but for my little sweetheart, who's in the back of the room. She'd never been involved in a car accident before. And you know how your firstborn is kind of special, you know, so you kind of have a fatherly protective instinct. So I'm now pleading with the Creator to protect us because she's in the back, and I see that the vehicle is like going like this. Now we're driving sideways in a slow motion, etheric type of thing. But as I see out of the corner of my eye, I'm starting to reach back, I see another 18-wheeler passing us. And just, he's going 60, we're doing about 55 sideways. He smashes our whole front end, left front end. And John described it best. He says, I saw the front end of our vehicle in pieces floating into the future down the highway. And then we started to spin the other way. Now I'm still in that mantra. And then I am trying to turn around like this as we got hit. And I see Elena, and I put my shoulder. Now she's starting to cry. And I put my left hand on her shoulder to try to steady her. And as we were spinning around, again out of the corner of my eye, I saw a third 18-wheeler coming from behind us now. And we just shifted enough and spun enough that when it hit the rear, it smashed off at a glance, and all of those seminar manuals that were in the trunk went up and protected Elena's back from all the metal shrapnel. So then we started spinning the other way. I would never once stop my affirmation, my prayer. Ultimately, it seemed like a couple minutes. I'm sure it was not more than like 45 seconds. But all of a sudden, things came back to normal speed time, and I looked back, and everything was stopped. It was dark now. The headlights were in back. I knew the accident was over. I got out of the car completely unscratched. Now, my prayer became praise. Thank you, Heavenly Father. Praise you, Heavenly Father. Thank you for protecting us. Thank you for protecting the nation. Thank you, praise you. I reached in to this demolished vehicle, and I pulled Elena out. She was crying. I carried her to the side of the road. John got out completely unscratched. And at that point, Elena was really unscratched too. We got to the side of the road, and there was a wonderful Christian gentleman there who offered to take Elena and myself back to the hotel to meet the chiropractors that had our luggage there, and John stayed behind to clean up a mess with the emergency people. And so we get back to the hotel, and nerves were shaking and shot. We poured bathtub, told Elena, sweetheart, why don't you take the first bath, go in there, settle your nerves. She pulls her dress off of her body like this, and she goes, ow, Daddy. It was the first moment that I realized maybe something had happened and hurt her. So you see this red ear right here? Tip of her ear right here is red. Take a picture of that. What happened at the third 18-wheeler when it struck, when my left hand was on her left shoulder, and I saw the back of the car being totally smashed, her head went against the sidewall right at the tip of her ear. And at that moment, I got it. I got it. And I said to her, sweetheart, I said, you know how Daddy's been trying to get you to listen and receive and telling you to listen and receive? She says, yeah, Dad. I said, the angels have delivered a lesson to you. They held you like with your ear, and you said, you listen to your daddy, you little one. And she got it. And for me, I got my prayer. I asked for the Creator to show me the relationship between He has, the great Creator, the great loving, joy-filled Creator, with the great destroyer. And He showed me here. He showed me that in a physical reality, where you're getting smashed by not one, not two, but 3 18-wheelers at 55 miles an hour, that with all glass and everything flying around, and the physics of it you can't even imagine, that the Creator would be able to create the whole circumstance just to deliver the message to my daughter and to the Father, saying, here's the relationship. So I learned my lesson that day. The difference between the Creator and the satanic elements. No correlation. It's an insignificant relationship. The metaphor is that of light versus darkness, where you can take a tiny little candle or light a match into a room full of darkness and evil, and what happens? The darkness flees. But you can't do the opposite. You can't take a little bit of darkness into a well-lit community and extinguish the divine reality. It's that time, I think that's the period we have to come to terms with our own mortality, and therein is life. You cannot fully live until you have come to terms with your own mortality. When you realize that what we have, this great blessing, is now going extinct, and we are creating our own and various other species extinction. It's time now to really come to terms with our mortality. And therein, suddenly now you'll appreciate what you have a little bit more. You'll appreciate the sparkling glow in people's eyes, the smile of your children. You'll hang on the words that your children articulate and the great blessings that they bring just from being there in the moment. Whatever you're doing really doesn't matter too much as long as you're there. You know, when you're in the womb, you know, you're in the water. Whoa, you know, you're just like, ooh, I love this. You know, you're vibing, ideally, to that love of the mother. So, you know, now that we're not in the womb, we're in the Creator's womb right here, right now. Besides this concentration camp of pollution. But this is the opportunity that we have for the restoration, is to sing and play the divine tones. That's why there's a whole huge evolution right now and burgeoning of this healing tone and healing sound technology and healing waters. You look at Rinpoche, who's the top monk, top priest within the order of the Buddhists, going around the world, chanting over and praying over water. That's totally brilliant, total wisdom. Came to the same conclusion that I came to through a different way. He got a divine download. I went into the scientific research literature and got some additional support from the divine revelation from not just myself, but numerous other people. Came to the same conclusion. It's all in the water. Singing, chanting, praying to the water. So we have consensus forming, in agreement, in harmony for the reality and the transformation opportunity that is right here, right now.
Well, this is kind of a large question, but I don't want to derive from what you were already talking about in terms of the solution. But in terms of these earth changes, what we've seen with earthquakes, I do kind of want to get your take on that, on what could be happening. With the question being bluntly, do you think that we could be entering the next phase of what could be called World War III with weather weapons?
There's no question that we're using those weather weapons right now, that they've been evolved, they've been perfected. Did you notice that we went last week from snow in 1 week to 105 degree, 170 degree weather in all throughout the West Coast from Vancouver all the way down? And if you looked at the map, I mean, I'm 55, 56 years old, and I watch a lot of weather. You know, you probably do too. And I've never, ever, ever seen the jet stream become a bobby pin. Never saw that before. Now that jet stream is controlled by 200-mile radius of water in the South Pacific. That if it heats up 2 or 3, maybe 4 degrees more, only that small area of the Pacific Ocean, it changes the entire jet stream. And that technology is called Project HARP. In Alaska, its sister in Europe is called IceCat. I understand that the globalists have now evolved several other heaters, they call it atmospheric heaters, where they beam frequency vibrations off of the ionosphere, the highest belt of the atmosphere. They beam it and they bounce it, and it goes up and it goes back down into the precise location where they want to put it. And the atmospheric heaters then heat up that South Pacific. And they did that years and years of research into weather control because military operations were contingent upon weather. They perfected that. You can literally read volumes and volumes. I have a set. I bought a set from Battelle Memorial Institute, West Jefferson, Ohio, which is responsible for creating the anthrax that was mailed. They have a full series on weather changes and the effects of weather change on populations. Every aspect of weather change they've studied, from how to do it to the effects of it. So there's no question in my mind that they're engaged in it, and that's what this end time scenario is. In essence, they're compelled by law to follow the prophecies, because the prophets are the speakers of the Creator. The prophets have blessed this planet, always, to reveal prophecy, which is divine intelligence, for protection, for coming out of her, lest you be infected by her, to move from sin to repent, which means to turn from that which is not of the Creator, not the will, not the way, not the law, to come out of that and move back into decency and integrity with the mathematical matrix of divinity. So now, given that it's all water, it's all weather, based on math, frequency, vibration, transmission, electromagnetic transmission is what their operation is all about. And they follow the prophecy, they follow the Bible, they're compelled to. Again, Satan creates nothing. It's a real jealous act going on here. Everything that's good, that's pure, now has to be genetically modified, mutated, hybridized, recombined, intoxicated, poisoned, polluted, decimated, including populations of humans. And they're going to do that every way possible. And they're going to perfect all the ways of war, including weather manipulation. There are many people who say we're not far right here from, what was it? What the mountain that blew the... Mount St. Helens. There were people who had intelligence that were reporting it 2 or 3 years before Mount St. Helens blew, that there were operations, that trucks going up there with explosives, with all sorts of things to get it to blow. There's been a lot of work. Look, you think about this. We're not stupid people. You're not stupid. I'm not stupid. Our scientists, our lead developers and researchers are not stupid. The people that control those people are not stupid. If there's a buck to be made, and if there's power to be gained, you bet your booties they've explored it to the max. They have so much money, and it's not about money. Nixon said it, it's about absolute power. And with regard to the question, what are the Illuminati, what are the global devil doers up to at this age? You know, where are they? What are they thinking about? Besides, they're safe in their havens, and they have the suppression of all the technologies. Everything from the hydrogen fuels, the free fuels, to the healing machines that Tesla developed. Right? They've got all that stuff. They know the truth. They're free of the dis-ease. They have the silver hydrosols. They've suppressed all that. They're not worried. They don't get vaccinated like you and I are told we must get vaccinated to get our children into schools. They don't do that kind of stupid thing. So, just like the president didn't go to the military. They exempt out of that stuff. So the concept is that what we're looking at is people who have a superior capacity to evade the decimation, destruction, and I guess there you have it. So the provisions that we make at this time are extremely important. got to think about everything from food, water, air, shelter, the basic physiological human needs for survival. But again, men live by more than bread alone. It's a whole spirit. So you've got to bring the spirit. You can't afford anymore to have allegiances and alliances with people who are not operating on the same spiritual level. They have detracted from us. They have slowed us down appropriately for us to learn the lessons that are necessary for us to move on now. We're coming out of her, my people, lest we be infected by her madness. Coming out of Babylonian insanity for practical divinity. That's our reality. So now in that process, we have to rely on kindred spirits of people who can share and are on the same page spiritually with us. Those are the people in which we need to engage enterprise. So make the provisions of finding out who those people are in your lives. That's an urgency now. Time is of the essence. You know, this concept is powerful. When you understand this musical mathematical matrix of how this is all set up, how tithing operates, how the test of a tithe is where you pull out of your pocket your last dime because that was owed to the Creator. How this concept of there being a double toroidal spiraling matrix that as you sow, so shall you reap. As you plant, manifests in the harvest. The truth is that giving is receiving. As English is alphanumerically reversed from the sacred languages of Hebrew and Sanskrit, giving is receiving. We've got it backwards in this ignorant mind, in this limiting, fearful, judgmental, guilty consciousness that has been generated by insanity. Let it go now and realize, as you sow, so shall you reap. Give it out with joy and love because that's what the Creator is constantly doing. Forever giving, beforehand giving. The air, the water, the food, the sustenance, the spiritual blessing. All of it is constantly being given before you even give praise and thanks. The Creator is no fool. The Creator does that because of the system that the Creator created is that giving gives Him a blessing, as it should us.